Mabuhay og madayaw. I would like to introduce myself. I am Vanna Mariel L. Quinola, a second-year BSA student. I expressly deliberate operational procedures we and I witnessed during the educational tour. So now, let's define first the regulatory and taxation were at Bureau of Customs NAIA and Tariff Commission. So, first technical term is the CMTA or the Republic Act 10863. CMTA is the law that sets the rules for customs procedures in the Philippines where follows the legal basis. For example, customs officers follow CMTA rules when processing imported goods. Second technical term, the de minimis value. So the de minimis value is a value limit of goods that can enter without paying duties and taxes. For example, an Shopee or a small online order worth 9,000 may not pay customs tax. Third technical term is the HS code or the Harmonized System Code. It is an international number used to classify products in trade. It is part in educational tour we went at Tariff Commission where we learn more deeper on how to classify the goods. For example, a laptop or an object has its own HS codes used by the customs. And then fourth technical term, the AHTN or the ASEAN Harmonized Tariff Nomenclature. So, this is the system ASEAN countries use to classify traded goods. They teach us how to classify the goods based on what is in the tariff rate and duties at Tariff Commission. For example, a phone imported from Thailand uses the AHTN code. And also, the fifth tariff or the technical term is the tariff classification ruling, an official decision on the correct tariff code of a product. If goods are mistakenly classified, the importer may pay the wrong duties and taxes. This can cause shipment delays, penalties, or fines from customs. The documents may also need to be connected before the goods are released. The sixth technical term is lodgement, submitting shipping documents to the customs system. At the second floor of NMM brokerage, there are a lot of them, brokers assigned in their designated area. For example, a customs broker lodges the import documents online. And then the seventh technical term is the selectivity system or the color lanes. It explains during the first day of educational tour at Bureau of Customs NAIA what are the selectivity lanes and what are the rule. So it is a system that assigns shipment to green, yellow, red lanes for inspection. For example, a shipment in the green lane is released without inspection. Eighth technical term is the physical examination or what we call in selectivity lane, which is the red lane. Red lane is where the customs officers open and inspect the cargo. For example, a customs open a box to check if the goods match the declaration. The ninth technical term is the non-intrusive inspection, which is or X-ray, or what we called in selectivity lane, which is orange lane. This is using machines to scan cargoes without opening it. During the educational tour at NMM Customs Brokerage, in the first floor, they show us their facilities. For example, containers or cargo are scanned by X-ray at the port. The 10th technical term is the assessment of duties and taxes. This is a calculation of how much tax should be paid for imported goods. And for example, customs officers calculates the tax for imported shoes. The 11th technical term is airway bill. This is a document showing details of cargo transported by the air. For example, The DHL company gives an airway bill for package shipment by plane. That is airway bill. The 12th technical term is abandoned goods. This is goods not claimed or paid for within the allowed time. So, for example, a shipment left at the port for months becomes abandoned. So, the 13th technical term is the BOC port of entry. This is we went at the different port of entry, which is the official port where goods enter the country. For example, the Manila International Container Port, or the MICP, is one of the major port of entry. And the 14th technical term is the Import Entry and Internal Revenue Declaration. This is a document declaring imported goods and taxes due. For example, a broker files an IERD for imported electronics. Next is the 15th technical term is the customs appraiser. This is a customs officer who checks the value of goods. For example, the appraiser verifies the price of imported bags. The 16th technical term is anti-dumping duty. This is an extra tax on imported goods sold too cheaply. For example, cheap steel imports may have anti-dumping duty. So, most of these terms, we experience the reality of what the steps on how customs brokerage manage in the customs field from the very first day of the educational tour. And now, let's move on or continue to the second part, which is the logistics and brokerage operations. So, let's continue the 17th technical term, the declarant. So, the person of a company declaring goods to customs, either import or export. For example, a customs broker submits the import declaration. The eighth technical term is Incoterms 2020. It is an international rules that define buyer and seller's responsibilities. For example, under the FOB, the seller delivers goods to the ship, like that. And then 19th technical term is the bill of lading. It is a document providing shipment and ownership of a cargo. For example, a shipping company issues a BL or bill of lading for a container. The 20 demurrage or demurrage, a fee when cargo stays too long at the port terminal. For example, a company pays demurrage or demurrage because of the delayed pickup at the port or any like pantalan. And the 21st technical term is detention, a fee for keeping a container outside the port too long. For example, a truck keeps the container for many days and pays for detention. So, the 22 technical term is the TEU, or the 20-foot equivalent unit, a standard measurement for a shipping containers. For example, a 20-foot container equals 1 TEU. So, the 23 technical term is stevedoring. Was at the MSTSI Subic. They show us how they unload and load their cargo. It is the loading and unloading of cargo from the ship. For example, workers unload containers from a vessel, from unload or unload. The 24th technical term is the arrastre. It is a transfer and handling of cargo at the port. Example of arrastre is arrastre's worker move goods from ship to warehouse. And then the 25th or 25th technical term is manifest, a list of all cargo inside a ship or aircraft. For example, the ship manifest lists all the containers on board. Then, the 26th technical term is freight forwarding, a service that arranges shipping for goods. For example, a freight forwarder organized delivery from China to Manila. Next is 27th, the supply chain visibility, the ability to track goods during transportation. So, for example, a company tracks its shipment using an online or what we call it now the e-track. Next is 28. The 28th technical term is the transshipment, moving cargo from one ship to another. For example, goods from China passed through Singapore before Manila. The 29th technical term is the LCL or the less than container load. Cargo sharing a container with other shipment. For example, a small box from different companies share one container. That is LCL or less than container load. The 30th technical term is the FCL, the full container load. One shipper uses the whole container. For example, a company ships one full container of a furniture. The 31st technical term is the chassis, a wheeled frame used to carry containers by truck. For example, the container is placed on the chassis for a delivery. And the 32 technical term is the port throughput, the total cargo handled by a port. For example, the Port of Manila handled 1,000 of containers daily. Next is the 33 technical term, free port zone or the Subic context, a special area with tax benefits for businesses. For example, a company sets up a factory in Subic Free Port. So now let's move on and continue to the third part, which is the special economic zones and incentives. And now, the 34th technical term is the eco zone or the economic zone, a special businesses area with tax incentives. For example, a factories operate inside a PEZA eco zone, which is at Baguio. 35 technical term is income tax holiday, a period when a company does not pay income tax. For example, a new factory enjoys a 4-year tax holiday. And the 36th technical term is the border trade, the cross-border trade, a trading goods between different countries. For example, a Philippine company exports banana to Japan. The 37th technical term is the indirect export. It is a selling of goods to another company that will export to them. For example, a supplier sells parts to a company that exports a product abroad. And the 38th technical term is the zero rated VAT. A zero rated VAT applied to a certain export. For example, exported goods may have a zero VAT. 39 technical term is the customs territory. This is the area where the customs laws apply. And for example, imported goods entering the Philippines follows the customs rules. And the 40th technical term is the admission or into economic zone. A goods entering an economic zone without paying duties yet. For example, raw materials enter a PEZA zone for manufacturing, just like at Subic. Now, let's move on to the 41 technical term, the PEZA Gate Pass, a document allowing goods to enter or leave a PEZA zone. For example, a truck shows a PEZA Gate Pass at the checkpoint. And the 42 technical term is the constructive exportation. Goods threatened as exported when delivered to an economic zone. For example, a local supplier delivers a materials to a PEZA company at Baguio City. And 43 technical term is Certificate of Origin or the CO, a document showing where a product was made, kung asa siya nag-made. So, for example, a Certificate of Origin shows that shoes were made in Vietnam. 44th technical term is the surety bond. The surety bond is a guarantee that taxes or obligations will be paid. For example, a company submits a surety bonds to a customs or into customs. So these terms I learned during at the Baguio City, which is in PEZA, Baguio. And now, let's move on and continue to the fourth part, which is, or the last part, which is the operations and quality standards. The 45 technical term is the GMP, or the Good Manufacturing Practice. This is the rules to ensure products are made safely and properly. And for example, a food factory follows GMP to keep the product safe. The 46th technical term is the quality assurance. This is where the processes that ensure that the products meet the quality standards. And for example, the QA or the quality assurance is checks if the product follows the correct procedure. And the 47th technical term is the quality control. This is where testing a products to see if they met the quality requirements. For example, quality checking or quality checks if a medicine is safe for before selling, because it will take time to check, because it also take for, because we human take a medicine. The 48th technical term is the lead time. Lead time is a time from ordering a product until the delivery. For example, a factory waits 10 days for a raw materials. The 49th technical term is the inventory management. This is the process of monitoring and controlling stock. Now, and for example, it is a warehouse track on how many items are left in a storage. And lastly, the fifth or the 50th technical term is a just-in-time or the GIT. A system where materials arrive only when they are needed in production to reduce storage cost. For example, a factory receives parts on the same day and they will be used in production. Overall, from this lesson, I learned how international trades works and how customs rules and systems help control the movement of goods entering and leaving the country. And I also realized the importance of logistics operations, documents, and port processes in making sure shipments are transported safely and efficiently. These lessons helped me understand how economic zones, tax incentives, and manufacturing standards support businesses while ensuring products' quality and proper trade operations. And that would be all. Thank you and have a blessed day ahead.